just briefly, I heard some quotes from Roy Keane the other day saying that when Arsenal were down to 10 men, we should have still beaten Brighton and found a way to hang on against Manchester City. And the time, I thought he was being really harsh. But I think the underlying point he was making was that when you're going for a title, you have to find a way.
You mentioned Roy Keane, and listen, Roy Keane, on one hand, I love him as a pundit. Obviously, I'm Irish as well. There's that link. But on the other hand, I know how some of the things he says can be taken. But we've got to understand his mentality was elite. That is the best Premier League captain of all time. And as disingenuous maybe as some of the things he might say is, believe it. Roy Keane wouldn't be happy going down to 10 men with 45 to go and losing a game in that era. He wouldn't have been. Whether being a fool or not, that's just the mentality he had. And I think that is the mentality we should have. Mm-hmm. Whereas we tend to, as a sphere, an Arsenal sphere, it's the 10 men, it's the referees. And that kind of builds some subconscious that, you can use that as a siege mentality or you can use it as an excuse as well. I think what Keane said, obviously, if he's talking about himself and his experiences and the man he is, I think he ain't telling a lie. That's how he is. Obviously, I still think a point at the Etihad is a positive point. But I agree. It's the mentality of the. I don't think the players left Etihad feeling upset, as upset as they should have at, letting it get back to 2-2. I feel like there was always the caveat of, all right, we know what, we defended for the large part of the second half. We was down to 10 men. It was inevitable. It happened. Whereas the feeling should have been, fuck, we fucked it in the last minute. Even though it's still a good point. Do you get what I mean? It's a weird
point. My biggest problem with
but I think I agree with Roy Keane what he's saying about certainly Brighton. We're 1-0 up in that game. We're winning that game. That was poor. I thought it was poor management. I thought we went too defensive instead of being a little bit more attack. And Roy Keane's got substance to this because we went down to 10 men in the FA Cup semi-final. It was him that got sent off. And at that time it was level and they found a way to win that game. So, I get that. On normal circumstances that day, they lose that game because it was a penalty like in the last minute from Bergkamp. Normally, and they would have lost in the last minute. Fine lines. There's always things on that. I have no problem with what happened at Man City. No problem whatsoever. I do have a problem with the way we finished the game against Brighton, and certainly against Bournemouth.